right, welcome. I'm Mr. Tennant, going to walk you through how to use Reaper, which is a recording software that we're going to use for podcasting purposes. Now, if you're a musician, this is also great for recording music too, but for now we're just going to do podcasting, which is a little simpler because it's just voice, it's just audio, so it doesn't need to be anything too fancy. Now, you notice, for our purposes, we're probably not going to use it for more than 60 days unless you really love it. You can get the full version, but for now we don't need it. If you're just doing a project or something like that, it shouldn't take you longer than 60 days. So we can either record or download it for Windows or Mac, which is nice, and you want to get your appropriate version. Walks you through the typical download install process. Once you've done that, it should look like this. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you have the right input. This can throw people off because they might record and they can't really hear anything. So we want to hit Options up at the top and scroll all the way down to Preferences. And you want to choose Direct Sound. Now there's some other options if you want to use fancier microphones and use some other interfaces. You can come talk to me about that. But for now we're just going to use Direct Sound, and we're just going to kind of leave everything as is and hit OK. Next, we need a track. So we can do a couple things. We can go Track, Insert New Track, or you can just double click on this left pane and that'll bring up our track options. So now we've got one track. If you are getting fancy and you want to record with two microphones, double click again for two tracks. But for now we're just going to leave it with one. Now, if you sometimes this can be minimized and you might have to drag it to get all the options. I know sometimes these last two bits can be left out, so we want to make sure we can see those. All right, next we want to make sure we're in mono, which it looks like we are. We can see recording in mono down here. So this is important. Sometimes if we're in stereo, then it'll only record to one headphone or one side. So if you listen to it and you're wearing headphones or something, you may only hear it on the left headphone, and that's a little wonky. So we want to make sure we're recording in mono especially for speaking. Next, we want to make sure our track is armed or disarmed if we don't want to use it, but we want to make sure it's armed. That way we can hear the audio. So notice as soon as I click it, now that it's red and activated, you can see this little meter that's indicating that it's picking up my voice right now. So you want to make sure that's on. I've seen some folks who will leave this like that, and then they'll go down and click this big red button, and that won't do anything. They may even record for half an hour or something, and they'll find that it's all gone to waste because they didn't arm. So make sure your track is armed up here, or else that way we're not wasting our time, right? Once that is there, then we can hit record. Now, the other thing you may be thinking, especially if you're using headphones, is some headphones are noise canceling, so you can't really hear yourself as you're speaking. If that's the case, you can go to this little icon and click on. I'm using speakers. If you are using speakers, you want to make sure record monitoring is off. Otherwise, you'll get really bad feedback and it'll be kind of painful. So you want to make sure that this is off with speakers. You might want to turn it on using headphones. If you're just using iPod headphones or something like that, then if you can leave it off and you can probably still hear yourself talking just fine. Okay, so now that we've got that done, we want to hit the record button. And so you can see the sound waves. You can tell that it's recording as I'm talking, and it's going to work for us. So this is a good sign. If you don't see this, if it's all flatlining or something, then you may be skipped a step in the process here. So we're going to pause it there, and every time you're done recording, unless you messed up, there were too many ums and ers in there, you might want to delete, but for our purposes, we're going to hit Save All, and then we're going to hit Save Project As, I like to name it, so in this case, we're going to call this ReaperDemo, Save. And then if you want to export this, we're going to go down to Render. So File, Render, and here we're going to go ReaperDemo, excuse me, and then we're going to hit Render One File. For output format, you could go WAV. I would go WAV file, and then in either an iTunes or Windows Media Player, you can convert that down to an MP3 or AAC file. and that's not too bad. But for our purposes, we're just going to hit render one file, keep it as a WAV file, and there are plenty of converters out there, so we're not going to worry about that too much. But that's it. If you need to record a podcast, if you want to pretend like you're interviewing a character from one of our books, this is an excellent way of doing so. So this is an option for you. It's a great alternative to doing an essay or traditional project. I love podcasts, and if you ever want to create your own in the future, this is a great way of doing that. Hopefully this helped. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.